Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of GetJasched. So today I have with me Jeremy Parker. Jeremy is the co-founder and CEO of swag.com, a top e-commerce platform for purchasing promo materials people actually want to keep, which is always useful. Swag is innovating distribution and branding by making their own apparel and storing orders for customers. They are number 218 on Inc.com's top 500 and have grown 2,000% over 3 years. So through Swag, Jeremy has worked with Netflix, TechCrunch, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and has been named one of Crain's New York 40 under 40 class of 2020. And because of that, and because of Jeremy's passion about infusing consciousness into how we consume and connect, we're here having a conversation today. So thank you so much for joining me, Jeremy.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
My pleasure. Let's dive straight into, because from what I understand about Swag, there's a particular kind of culture. So how would you describe the culture of Swag?
Swag, our own team culture you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, internally and externally, I think, because both are very relevant here.
Okay, so I would say internally we have an amazing company culture. You know, people are team players. We always like to say that startups are a team sport. It's not, one person having all the ideas or one person setting the tone. It's everybody. People, we want to hear from people. We want people to feel like they're growing within the organization. We don't want people to be here for a year. We want people to be here for many years. We want them to build a career. So when we look for new hires, and I interview everybody, and at this point we have 65 people on the team, and I make sure that I interview everybody. And I think it's very important, actually, the first 100 employees, is really, really important that the culture is there and everybody who joins the team is the right fit. It doesn't have to be the flashiest resume. And oftentimes we don't hire the people with the flashiest resume. It's about being coachable. It's about being a team player, somebody who's willing to work hard, that if they mess up, that's okay, but they're going to learn from their mess ups. They're going to take accountability. So I think just our culture in general is very positive, and people feel like they can rely on one another. So that's kind of like our internal team, and that's what we're trying to set the tone for. But Swag is, as a concept in general, and what we do is we help a lot of companies with their company culture, especially everyone's working so remote right now. Everyone's disconnected. Swag is a unifier. If you're not going in person, you're not having these daily meetings and events and being able to collaborate in person. Well, how do you stay connected to people when everyone's working remote? So Swag is such a powerful medium for that. It's a powerful medium for onboarding new hires in the right way and bringing them into the culture. It's important for office managers to buy Swag for the remote team. It's important for sending your best customers Swag to re-engage and keep that connection. So there's a lot of different use cases, and we just want to make it really easy for our customers to be able to use and be able to connect really to their own team and to external teams and customers.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, like I had this thought process around there were different conferences or events or whatever it is that people would go and they'd get like a goodie bag. And there was this whole sense of, it's not so much about like missing out on what those items are, but it's missing out on like the connection or the sense memory that you have from having like a physical item from like that's branded, or that's that you have this feeling of connection. And people not working in offices most cases as well, like working from home and everything, I imagine that would fill, I mean, it's always filled a need in some way, but in particular the last 18 months, that would have filled a need in a really richer way than we could have expected, right? Like, because before it might have just been seen as like, oh, here's your goodie bag, here's your swag bag, like, or whatever it is, and welcome. Whereas now it's this sense of connection and belonging to an event or to a group or to an organization or an institution. Like there's this sense of like you have it there with you.
100%. And I think a lot of the buyers, our Swag buyers, are HR managers or office managers, the marketing teams, and they're just being more thoughtful nowadays. Also, they're thinking about what those recipients will, sweatpants and all these different kinds of things that they're thinking about. They're putting themselves in the shoes of the recipients. and they're being mindful and saying, well, what is this person really be able to be used at home? You know, so we're living in a whole different work environment. So it really is a connector. And even before the pandemic, if you're just thinking about it, when you're walking down the street and you see somebody wearing, you know, your favorite sports team or your college, you don't know that person, but you have an instant connection to that person. And I think it's the same thing with internal teams. When people are on Zooms and on video conferencing and they're wearing the same stuff, it brings people together. It's just this kind of innate thing that you see somebody wearing the same t-shirt as you, it makes you feel like you're part of the same organization, you're part of the same team. And it has such a powerful impact to culture, and people didn't necessarily realize that as much as they do right now. They're realizing how important it is to bring people together.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you've touched on something there as well, especially with HR, is they're being more thoughtful at the moment. Like, so I see the traditional way of HR being like this old paradigm of, you know, like kind of just like getting things done, or like, you know, sticking to the letter, but not actually having that that emphasis on how do people feel connected, what's going to make them feel good, and what's going to help them feel more at ease throughout their workday, like that kind of thing. In other ways they were, but that was more around like stringent rules or things, whereas this excuse me, this is more around like you said, like how are people going to feel more connected, what's going to give them a little bit more comfort or something of what they need. And that in itself is like a language, it's like a love language almost, right? Like, but for a workplace.
100%. You know, we have customers who are sending like coloring books to recipients, and not because they think that their employees love to color, but it's mostly for their children, because everyone's realizing, you know, moms and dads are at home, and they're not only employees, they're now teachers, they're camp counselors, they're all of the above. And what can you do to give them something to show that we care, that we're in this with you, we understand the challenges that you're going through? It's just thoughtfulness. So that's really what we try to push on our customers, is just be mindful, be thoughtful, think about who you're giving it to, and give them the right gift.
Yeah. Where do you see, like, because again, thoughtfulness isn't necessarily something that has been in the past like a priority or even a value necessarily, like I'm generalizing here, but like even a value in the corporate world before. Obviously some companies were doing that really well anyway, like pandemic notwithstanding, but where do you see that the benefits of that level of thoughtfulness is like moving forward, even post this right now?
I think it's become a necessity, honestly. You know, employee people have choices now. Everyone has choices of where they want to work, what they want to do, where, you know, what state they're able. Everyone's remote, right? So we have employees who are based in Florida, we have employees based in Ohio and Texas, in California, all over Ukraine. Like, they're everywhere. People have choices nowadays. So if you're going to build the right company culture and the right team and get the right talent, you think a little bit. You have to be more mindful. You have to be, you know, in every you know, aspect of the word, whether it's you're dealing with your customers, trying to engage with them and win business, and really be thoughtful of how are you going to stand out over this other person. To your own employees, how do you keep them happy, right? How do you make sure that they feel valued, that they feel respected, so I think it's going to be so important moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I like the way that you describe how you approach your hire, and how you look at each person. You're not necessarily going for like the big gun person with like the fancy resume and everything. You're actually going for someone with, I would call that like, it's value seeking, because it's not so much going, this is everything that I can do and it's all you know, schmick and fancy, but these are my values, and this is like what I'm willing to learn, and like there's a depth in that too. How do you, because everyone is, I'm assuming everyone is still remote there for you guys as well, but Lord, that's predominantly the practice, but how do you tackle the tough conversations when it comes like to the hard conversations, rather than just the fun, easy ones?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as it was when it was in person. It just happens to be on video now. I think for my leadership style, and I'm very, I would say direct. You know, if something's, I don't like things to be like just in the air and not being handled, right? Or people not understanding what what we're thinking. As leaders, I think it's important to tell people what you're thinking, and if I'm misrepresenting or misunderstanding what's going on, then they could clarify, and if I'm not, then they can respond to it. But having more open, straightforward dialogue, I think, always is the right solution. So I know a lot of people on personal or business like to hold things in until it gets too busy, and then it becomes much worse than it is. So I think you just got to nip things in the bud and just have those conversations often and early.
Yeah, that's definitely my philosophy, and it's like what I teach around communication. It's like, if it's something that's there that's taking your attention, like, we build it up to make it so much worse than what it is, rather than just directly sort of going, hey, am I understanding or are you understanding? And often, as soon as we sort of step into that space, that pressure relieves itself anyway, right? Like, there's just like this, it's actually not this big scary monster, it's just is what it is.
Yeah. And I think just being open-minded in general to being wrong. Sometimes I misread a situation and I have a conversation, and then when I hear from somebody else's perspective, being like, okay, I didn't think of it the way you just thought of it. That actually makes sense to me. So being okay that when you have those hard conversations, that it doesn't necessarily have to be hard. It could be a learning experience for both parties. So I think just being very open-minded, whether you're just an employee at a company, like, put yourself in other people's shoes, realize that we're all working for the greater good. We're all working for the business. It's not me versus you or this versus that. We're a team. So have that mentality. I think a lot of problems that might seem really crazy or bad are not really a big deal when you really break it down to that. Like, no one's doing anything to hurt anybody. People do things. And I think if you realize that, we're all in this together, it'll all ultimately work out.
Yeah, I think that's a really important way to approach it, especially from a position in leadership, and especially with startups, because I imagine that, like, there might be an element sometimes of like, but this is my baby, and kind of like being protective of it, if that makes sense. Whereas, like, being able to surrender a certain amount of that and go, yeah, I'm the leader still, and I could still be wrong, and I can sort of like learn from these other people that I brought on and have as part of the team, because, as you said, like, we're all working towards the greater good. We're all working on the same thing. It is now like this collective experience, rather than me having to shoulder all of it just because I created it in the first place. Like, that's a totally different thing as well.
It's very hard. I'm not going to say it's an easy thing to do that transition. I'll say personally, I haven't always been this, I would say, open-minded. In the very beginning, I used to micromanage 100%. The early years, having chats on the site and customer success people responding in a way that I didn't think they should respond, or me jumping in. And I just saw it's more damaging than good. And by the way, even if I was right, and I think I was right, but at the end of the day, you hire people to do a job. You can't micromanage them. You can't oversee them. You hire them for a reason. So what I've realized is, in many ways, and many times, if you can get out of their way, if you're hiring the right people, they're going to do it. If you don't hire the right people, and there's issues happening, then you got to get rid of those people because they're not the right people. But if you hire the right people, then you got to be super open-minded to make sure they definitely guide them, lead them. But ultimately, they're going to be the ones who are going to be able to handle it.
Yeah, well, it's also like, people tend to make more mistakes the more they have someone looking over their shoulder as well. Like, there's this pressure where they will screw up more, and they will mess up more. What was your process in realizing that, like, going from holding onto it tightly because I imagine, because you care so much, because it's, again, like, it's your baby, it's your thing, to realizing, and then to your approach now?
Yeah, I don't think it was sustainable, honestly. When you're growing and you have to do a million things, when you're starting a business, you're the CEO, you're the head of marketing, you're the head of sales, you're a delivery truck driver, you're head intern, you're everything. And then as you're growing as a business, you have to have people who do things. And when I found myself, year 3, and we're doing 3 million in sales for the year, but I'm still jumping into chats, it doesn't make any sense. It wasn't scalable. I wasn't able to focus on the priority things, and I was busy doing things that I shouldn't be doing, frankly. And once I let myself realize that, I took a step back and I didn't look at the chats, or I didn't and I didn't like micromanage, I realized things are still going on well. Things are growing, and I don't need to be so on top of everybody. Right. So I think it's very hard to get to that point where you feel things are running without you. it's hard to kind of let yourself go. But once you do and you see it working, it's so freeing. Then I can focus on 100 different things. I don't have to focus on those things. So
Yeah. Did you notice any particular change in the culture when that sort of started to shift?
oh, 100%. That point we had about, now we have 65 employees, but at that point, and I was doing the micromanaging, it was probably around 8 employees, 10 employees. So
Yeah.
culture right now is so much better. I mean, for the last 3 years, I haven't been doing that. So it's been a while. The culture's been building upon itself. People come on our team and have been with us for 3 years plus years now. People, really love the team. The culture is really great. And I think it's
Yeah.
just hiring the right people and giving them the authority to make decisions and empower them to make decisions. And if they mess up, not getting upset, just being like, what can we learn from it? And let's make it better. And then let's grow from it. So that's just the mentality shift really changes everything.
Yeah. And it's probably really refreshing for the employees as well. Like, I know I've been in corporate positions before where I've been micromanaged, and then I've been in positions where I had the responsibilities but didn't have the authority given,
Mhm.
and that was frustrating itself. And now, like, having my own business, it's a totally different experience when you have that empowerment and you get to step up into that space and someone else trusts you and you have space to make mistakes if they happen, because we're all human and at some point they will. I think, like, to me, that would be one of the standout things about Swag's culture, just from the outside to look at and go, like, people have permission to do their job in the way that, like, is with their voice as well. Like you said about customer service, like, someone might have a particular style of saying something that would resonate with customers, but if you have this one honed in idea of like what that should be, then it would start to become robotic, right? Like, for the customer experience.
Yeah, I think it's even more than that. I think it's also even like the product that we're building, right? Like in the very beginning as a founder, every idea, it was my idea, right? I'm designing the site, I'm designing the brand, the user experience, everything. And at some point you have to realize, well, let's listen to the customers. We got to really listen to customers. Like, what are they wanting? How do we build what they're looking for? And I think it's just an overall leadership, and everyone on our team and whoever we hire, we always kind of ram this down everyone's throat, frankly, that you have to be open-minded. That's really the most important thing. Like, it's good. It's an important thing to have ideas. It's an important thing to have opinions, and you should fight for your opinions if you really believe in it. But at the same time, be open-minded to others' opinions, because you never know where conversations and varying opinions can lead you. So I think it's an internal thing. It's how we structure the team. It's who we hire. I think just the people that we're going after, and we're very mindful of this when we're doing the interview process, is we want strong people, but we want people who can also take a back seat and are willing to learn from other people. So I think it's just more of a collaborative team kind of mentality person that we're hiring. And I think if you just have a lot of those kind of people, it attracts other people who are like that. And when the new people come in, they realize, well, how collaborative everyone is, how open-minded everyone is, how hardworking everyone is, that they're willing to help you out, then they by nature become that even more so. And it's just kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you're building a team of all-stars, and the team is way more powerful than the individual. And I think we're at a point where the team is just getting, in multiples more powerful, because everyone is really there for each other and working together.
Yeah, I think that is, like, that collaboration piece is really the key as well. Like, Swag have worked with, like, pretty big companies like that we've listed before that can definitely attest to that as well. But what would you say, because again, the world is kind of heavy at the moment, and it has been for a while. And I know that especially for you guys over there, it's been an experience. So, like, what would you say in terms of the collaboration? How have you increased, like, the fun and the joy factor of life, I guess, life in that collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, for our own internal employees, I think, just being mindful of where everyone is, not obviously forcing people into an office. Everyone's been working remote, trying to plan events that is easy for people to get to. We have an event every 3 months where the whole team gets together. So it's very important. Culture is really important, and in-person events and meetings, in my opinion, is amazing. Like last event we had 3 months ago, we were trying to figure out a campaign messaging for our marketing campaign, and we were having 20 Zoom calls and we couldn't figure it out. And in a 30-minute meeting in person, we're able to work through stuff. So there's definitely some benefits to that. But I think just thinking about who's on our team, what will make their life easier, thinking about them throughout the whole process and just being there for them. If people need to call in and say, hey, I need a day, I'm stressed out about whatever. It doesn't matter if they're sick, give them a day, right? Like everyone's going through stuff that you don't know. Like you don't have to, get an excuse. You don't have to find out the exact reasoning why someone needs to take a day off. Just be more there as an empathetic leader. And I think they'll appreciate it. Employees appreciate those things. And they're working for us. They're working for a company. They're working for the greater good. So we have to treat them that way.
Yeah. And what about your collaborations, like with your clients, like, so the external collaborations, is there a moment where they have this almost like this refreshing realization of, oh yeah, like we can send coloring books to our staff. Like it doesn't have to be a pen, like, or like whatever it is, right? What are those moments like?
Yeah. So we have a whole team that does, creative decks and presentation decks and ideas and constantly coming up with different ideas for different seasonality or holiday gifting ideas or all these different things. So we are constantly trying to be creative and think of things outside the box and being a partner to our customers to make sure that they stand out to their customers or they give a really great experience to their employees. So our site is kind of split into twofold. We have customers who go on our site and don't want to speak to anyone and they could check out in less than a minute. Great. We love those types of customers. And then we have customers come to us and say, hey, I have an event coming up. I have this budget. Give me some ideas. And we're happy to do that as well. So whether you're the customer that wants to speak to us and wants our input, or whether you're a customer that just wants to browse yourself, find what you're looking for, mock up your design, check out yourself, we're there for both types of customers. And so I think it gives us a breadth that we can handle the Amazons and the Googles and the Netflix and also small startups and also anyone in between. Like our customers range from people who have employees of 12 employees to, 50,000 employees. And we can handle people who want to do fully swag kits and boxes and fully custom presentation decks. And holding their swag in inventory and sending their swag to thousands of different addresses at once. Or, we did the thing for Amazon where they didn't have the addresses of the recipients. So our system can create a giveaway landing page, upload your logo, your colors, blast out a link and ask the recipient, hey, select what t-shirt size you are, select 3 of the 5 products you want, input your address. It all speaks to our system. We can distribute it. So we have built all these robust swag distribution, swag management tools that we're giving to customers for free and making their lives just a lot easier. So an office manager who's working remotely, instead of him having to buy thousands of t-shirts and notebooks and warballs and packaging up themselves and getting people's addresses and doing Google forms, we take care of it all. We make the process really effortless for people. So just by that, I think it makes their lives easier, which, is a great thing for us as well. We want to help people out.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's just contributing to this more connected experience for, like, regardless of which business it is, whether it's yours or whether it's your clients, like internally or your clients externally with their clients. Like there's all of the different facets that are fed into with that sense, going back again to that sense of like belonging, of going, oh, okay, cool. Like this is really comfortable for me, or this is really, like this is really like an experience for me. It's not just something that like, is in a bag underneath a chair at a conference kind of thing.
100%. And even more than that, like we often come up with ideas. We come up with ideas based on customer feedback. And that's, I would say 90% of the ideas that we come up with is directly given to us by our customers and what we're building. And about 10% is just stuff that we think will be valuable. So our giveaway feature, we built it because frankly, we didn't know where our recipients were living. Everyone was working remote, right? We don't know what t-shirt size they are. So we thought it would be cool if we were going to send swag to our best customers. Well, how are we going to do that? We would love to have a landing page. We might want one landing page that could be sent to everybody. We might want individual links to send to every individual person. Like, well, how are we going to build that? We might want to collect their t-shirt size. We might want to ask them which product they want. We'll have to collect their address. So once we built it and it was usable for us, we said, well, this could be an amazing feature for everybody. So like a lot of different, we're just trying to always put ourselves like, what do we need? What do our customers need? How can we make their lives easier? How can we make our lives easier? And And both, they're usually the same thing. We're a company, we're a startup, we're a growing startup. So what do we need to make our lives easier in this new environment? And how can we build that right feature for our customers to use as well for their own culture as well?
Yeah, it's like through the lived experience of like, this has helped us. And you're right, like it does make everything a lot easier. Like it's almost automating that process for the giveaways too. Like you don't have to have hands on everything. And I think that's kind of
Nothing.
the overarching lesson, because it's went from your leadership and not having to have hands on everything to even to connecting with people or making people feel connected in whatever way, or serving your customers or anything like that. There are ways that can be done just by simplifying processes
100%.
and handing it back over and saying, what do you want? Like there's something in that.
100%. Exactly right.
My mind is just like, oh, that's really interesting. Like it wants to sort of dive into all of that. But yeah, I feel like there's a new different way of leadership going. Do you find that with your clients, because those brands, like we kind of have an idea that they were already doing things differently than the norm, like than like corporate America, right? Like, so is there any realm where you have seen like a difference in how those brands start to show up, or do you feel like that they were just already meeting you where you're at anyway?
No, there's a lot of different stories from a lot of different brands. We have different companies that use our site in very different ways. So we have some companies that just buy swag in bulk and send it to their office, and they're never going to go away from that. They like that. They like holding it. They like writing their handwritten note cards. They want to feel however they want to feel. And then we have customers who buy swag in bulk and hold in our inventory and use our service to distribute. And then we have customers who are both. There's sometimes some buyers within the organization, let's say the office manager wants to buy swag in bulk and send it to their home and do it. And then we have the marketing team at the same company that wants to hold swag in inventory and distribute to different addresses. And then we have the sales team that wants to buy swag and send out these giveaway links to all of their leads to help close sales. So there's all these different divisions within the company that are buying swag in very different ways. And we just want to be the solution that handles across the board. And we're not going to be not necessarily off the bat right for everyone, or like we can't market towards the HR manager, the marketing team, the office manager, the sales team at once, because you lose kind of your focus. There's no real way to market to everybody. So our strategy has always been, let's focus on one buyer, primarily the office manager. And once they're buying internally and they're giving out swag to all of their internal employees, all their internal employees now will see, oh, wow, swag.com makes amazing jackets. They make amazing backpacks and water bottles, and they'll start buying from us. So it's kind of like a Trojan horse strategy of getting in the door, let them buy, and then all these other departments are buying. And then we start learning from these other departments, well, how do we make our experience better for you? So that's kind of the principle that our brand takes, is trying to look at who our customers are, what are their challenges, and how do we just make their lives a little bit easier?
Yeah. Which I feel like is it's a really good emphasis to place on like how to approach business, rather than being stuck in but we're doing it this way. And for so long it was stuck in this is how we're doing it. This is how we're doing it. This is how we're doing it. Again, generalizing, but this is how we're doing it, versus going, okay, if we really want to be of service to people, to actually make the customer experience better, which is generally the whole idea, but hasn't always been the emphasis of the rollout of the idea, then this is what we do. And I think that then relates to beyond just like building a business, and how we build our relationships with people, like within the workplace, how we have that connection with people, how we continue that connection, and that piece there that just again makes people feel, oh, okay, I'm heard, I'm seen, I'm valued, I'm, like I can be human and have human moments, and I'm not in danger, like all of these things that are really, really important. What would be your ideal like vision of how leadership within business works towards in the future, or what that works towards in the future? Like what would you change, and what would you want to build more of?
Yeah, at least in our team, we look for empathetic leaders who can put themselves in the shoes of their team. I think just in my mind, It's very important that every company has leaders. You need leadership, right? It would be chaos if
Yeah.
everyone's opinion was the opinion.
Oh,
You need it. But at the same time, you want people's voice to be heard. You want people to understand that you're there for them. They're listening to them. They want what's best for them. They're not just a number. They're an integral part of the team. So when things go well for them, congratulate them. When things go wrong for them, privately try to help them and guide them in how to make it better. When you give them a raise, make an announcement to the whole team and say, hey, this person did really well. We're giving her a promotion or him a promotion, right? Like be there, really be there and be a cheerleader and show that you value them. I think it's really important. I think once once employees or teammates feel valued, they're going to give it their all. They're just going to work harder. They're going to work better. They're going to be happier. They're going to have a better life. And, that's a big part of being a leader also. You want your employees to have the best life possible, right? People are working a majority of their life. They're giving you a big chunk of their life or a big chunk of time, hopefully for many years. So treat them like that, show them that you care, show them that you want them to be there, show them that they're valued. So I think overall it's just empathy is the most important thing as a leader.
Yeah, I think that's important to sort of drive forward as well and create more of that in the world. What's one thing about leadership, maybe wrapping up on this so we can kind of like put that intention out into the world? What's one thing about leadership that you see that you would like to not see anymore? In general, like not necessarily.
In general, yeah. I think I think just I've been part of companies in the past, where there's been some leaders who are their way or the highway, right? Not willing to listen to feedback, everything has to be on their time, not valuing other people's time, showing up late, but being like, I'm the boss, so I can do that. You work for me. That just, I think that mindset of you work for me is probably very prevalent in corporate America and places that I've worked at in the past. I think you just got to remove yourself. As me as leader, I never think that. I never think that I'm better than anyone. Just because they're under me on the team doesn't mean that I'm better than them. It means that I have positioned that I should lead them to do better, right? It's kind of like the different mindset. Right?
Yeah. I like that because it's a reframe on that. It gives people an option because it's like, well, yeah, you're not better than them, but it's like, well, what is it then? It's like you're just in a different position to lead them and help them. Like that's the whole point of leadership, is to draw that up from other people rather than like stamp it down.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not better than you as a person. As people, we're all 100% equal, right? Like don't talk down to people because you're in a more higher position at work. It has nothing to do with anything, but be there to lead them and make sure that they, get the most out of it, right? If they're messing up on certain things, help them fix it. I mean, that's the main goal. We never want people to fail. We want people to succeed. So build people up, lead them in the right way, be empathetic. And I think you can't go wrong if you have all those mindsets, if your mindset is that.
Yeah, I think it's changing, like it's not the rights you have as a leader in your position, but it's the responsibilities that you have. And that's the gift, is like, okay, well, now I'm in this position, I get to lead, I get to help, but that's the responsibility at the same time.
100%.
Which I think is a really good ethos as well. So I will put this all in the caption and show notes, but where can people find information about Swag or follow Swag or any of that?
Yeah, so obviously come check us out, swag.com, swag.com. We would love to help you with any swag, whether you're buying swag or distributing swag, we're there to help. Reach out to me personally if you want to chat, Jeremy@swag.com, or on LinkedIn, Jeremy Parker on LinkedIn. And love to help you out in any way and love to connect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and for having this conversation about leadership. I feel like I really love these conversations because it puts more out there of like what kind of leadership we want to be having and experiencing by talking about it more, rather than just being in a place of not putting that out there, of like feeling like we're only seeing the bad examples. So I really appreciate these kinds of conversations because I feel like that contributes more to the world anyway, in just the little ways. And it's always interesting to hear how that is done and how you're doing it. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.